Morning, little buddy. Are you ready for another rainy day?
No, I'm ready for sunny days.
In the spring of this year, when we set out to build this bedroom addition onto our one-bedroom house, thus making it a two-bedroom house, I had to look into a lot of building materials that we were going to use. The first thing I started looking into was flooring. What I realized pretty quickly that all the flooring options were pretty toxic. Then I started digging deeper into the other building materials. What I came to find was just about every type of building material is toxic. Here we were trying to build an addition onto this house so we can make homesteading here work for us. A big part of why we are homesteading is for a healthier lifestyle. And I did not want to be building this addition onto the house only to have this terrible indoor air quality. These toxic building materials emit VOCs, formaldehyde, heavy metals into the dust particulates in the air. There's all kinds of nasty stuff, and that would really affect our indoor air quality, thus impacting our ability to have a really healthy lifestyle here. I spent hours and hours and hours researching, trying to find possible alternatives, and I was, for the most part, successful with that. By no means was I able to source everything perfectly, 100% non-toxic, but I think I did a really good job in getting the healthiest options while mitigating any of the toxic off-gassing. I have this video I made during the construction process where I talk a little bit about the insulation we use. I'm going to roll that now. So as you can see behind me, the OSB board, this is the exterior sheathing. It goes all the way around the addition. The next layer between that and the air barrier you see here is the Roxol insulation. It is a special kind of insulation, not fiberglass. It's made of a rock wool product, which is from coal slag. It has a lot less nasty stuff in it than your traditional fiberglass, and it's not going to off-gas anything noxious. And then here, this is an air barrier, this white paper you see everywhere, and what that does is it will allow some moisture to transpire as necessary, but it's going to block all of the VOCs or other nasty stuff in the air from coming in the room from the construction materials or from the outside. And this air barrier is even on the ceiling, and it goes all the way around. A big offender in indoor air quality pollution is formaldehyde, which can come from plywood, kitchen cabinets, a number of places in flooring. A concern of mine was the subflooring. All the subflooring in most houses is plywood. I found this product made by a company called AFM Safe Coat. They make a product called SafeSeal. It's a very thin, white, milky substance that you can apply to plywood or other woods that might be emitting formaldehyde, such as OSB sheathing, and it's sealed. It creates a barrier on the wood that locks in the formaldehyde. It actually, if you apply it correctly with 2 coats, you can reduce the formaldehyde emissions 100%. The existing flooring in the house before we moved in was in really bad shape. It was really awful old carpet and some tile. So we had all that taken out, which exposed all the plywood. So we had the option of adding the safe coat to the entire house. So one weekend, Ashley and I came in and we put it all down and got the floor sealed nicely. The subflooring for the existing portion of the house, along with the drywall, of course, is almost 20 years old. So most of the toxic compounds in those materials probably had off-gassed already in the last 20 years, especially this house has been vacant for a few summers where there's no air conditioning. and we had some pretty high heat summers, so a lot of that stuff is probably off gas. But we thought, hey, the subflooring is exposed, we might as well put it down, it doesn't hurt anything. Of course, we also had to have drywall put in the addition, as well as the lower thirds of the walls in the living room. There was this terrible paneling material that Ashley couldn't stand, so we had that taken out and put up the wallboard. I looked into a couple different options with drywall. One is a material called magnesium oxide board. Apparently is completely inert, 100% non-toxic. It's really solid. It's actually a much better product than gypsum wallboard. It's hard, it's impact resistant. It looks like a really great thing. The problem is almost all of it's being manufactured in China, and it has to make its way overseas. It's 3 times the cost of regular drywall, and I couldn't find any third-party independent testing that showed that the indoor air quality tests done on the magnesium oxide board actually met the standards that the company was marketing. Another option was lath and plaster, which was the way walls were done back in the old days. Basically, strips of wood were put up, picture something like a lattice, and then plaster just coated on there. The material cost was similar to drywall, and then the labor that you put into that is a lot more than drywall. Ultimately, I wound up selecting gypsum wallboard, but I was able to find a Green Guard Gold certified wallboard, which means that it's rated lowest possible VOCs for wallboard. So this was the least toxic and affordable option I could find. We use this wallboard in conjunction with another product to really mitigate any toxicity. In addition to using the Green Guard certified gypsum drywall, we use some other products made by AFM SafeCoat that really help with drywall. This is SafeCoat Prime Coat HPV. This is for new wallboard. So we use this on the wallboard in our bedroom since it was brand new. Doctor recommended for folks that have multiple chemical sensitivities. It is completely non-toxic, has 0 VOCs, and it's very low odor. This one is transitional primer. This is for priming an existing wallboard. So if you already have wallboard up that's painted, this is the primer you would use to put over that. So we also use this to prime what's now Little Buddy's room, and we'll be using this on the walls in the rest of our house when we start redoing our walls. Over the prime coat, we also used AFM SafeCoat paint, which works really nicely in conjunction with the primer, creating that nice seal on here. So I'm pretty confident that our indoor air quality in this bedroom is pretty good. The solution we found for Little Buddy's bedroom was we of course put the transitional primer up, which helps seal in the wall, and then we coated it with this natural clay plaster by American Clay. This particular one was called Enhare. It was kind of their lowest end, most affordable product. The reason why we got this one is because it was sold locally, and this was the only one that was in stock in the store. I would have liked to got one of the higher quality ones because they are beautiful, but this came out really nice. It's completely non-toxic and just made out of natural earth clay minerals. It actually improves indoor air quality by absorbing some of the dust out of the air as well as the excessive moisture. This is the American Clay finished product on Little Buddy's walls. This is not the color we selected. We actually picked a taupe color. The colors are created by adding these powdered pigments to the clay plaster. The guys at the store where I got the pigments from gave me the wrong colors, obviously, and it made the wrong mix. But we're pretty happy with the product otherwise. You can see this particular product, the Enhare, is a really rough texture. It's got a little gritty feel to it. Ultimately, we're pretty happy with the product, and we think it's a good solution for the situation in here. And lastly, there's our non-toxic flooring. This is a sustainably harvested cork flooring with 0 formaldehyde. Formaldehyde is usually the main offender in flooring for off-gassing. This is made without any urea formaldehyde. The company that made this particular flooring is called Wykanders. Cork flooring is really nice for indoor acoustics, as well as it's a little bit cushiony to walk on. It's a really comfortable flooring. The primer, the paints, the flooring, I all source through greenbuildingsupply.com. Their website is a tremendous wealth of information on alternative non-toxic building materials. And if you have any questions, call those guys. I called a number of times, and each person I spoke to had so much knowledge and information on each of the products. I was really impressed, so I decided to do business with them. One of several challenges I'm having with all this rain is this. When it's raining all day, the boys just hang out in the shelter all day, naturally. But they're just standing around near the water, and bam! I know they don't mean to, but I'm having to change those water out a lot more than I'd like to lately. I'm trying to dump this out a little bit further away from the shelter because this area right here is getting pretty muddy and I don't want those conditions for the sheep. I'm leaving the water level a little bit low just in case it happens again. I'm not wasting a lot of water in there. Look who came over for dinner. Grandma.
I want to give a shout out to my cousin Eddie and Mike in Georgia. Hi.
What's for dinner tonight? I braised a pork leg roast with some mirepoix, and when the pork was tender I pulled it and cut up a head of cabbage, threw it in there. It's been braised in an apple cider vinegar. I'm not sure what this is called. It's kind of like a pork stew, I guess.
Me?
Very good. Almost tastes like sauerbraten. It's a German dish.
Is it good?
Mm-hmm.
You don't like it?
I just like a sweet potato, not whole.